How to aim in Fortnite is one of the things that is the most requested on this channel. So apparently you have potato aim in Fortnite and you need my help to fix that. What we're going to be doing in this video is, instead of giving you aim tips, I'm going to be giving you mistakes that people make while aiming and then tips on how to improve on those mistakes. I feel like that's what's going to help best. So before we get into it, remember, YouTube doesn't like this video unless you guys do. With that in mind, it's your bro Rodey. Let's hop right into it. The map code to the map we'll be using in this video is going to be in the description down below. So if you're interested in using the same map that I'm using in this video, just check it out right there. It's a creative course that we have already published and we'll be updating anytime we do guides like this. But we're going to start off with crosshair placement practice. Now, I'm just now realizing we spelled this wrong, so very unprofessional video here. But what we're going to be doing is going over crosshair placement, and you might be thinking, well, Cole, just use aim assist, you forehead. You're on controller.
Controller auto aim, dude. Dude's on controller.
But there are some things outside of aim assist that help you aim better. Like, you can notice my aim compared to like a bot's aim on controller, it's very, very different. Somebody who's just picked up a controller, you can see I'm moving around my aim a lot more smoothly. So with crosshair placement, we're going to talk about your mistakes with crosshair placement. Now, it's pretty self-explanatory on where you want to be aiming, and you typically want to be aiming around head level in game. So like when you're running, I've seen people are always like, how do you tell if someone's a bot? If you're looking like here or here or here whenever you're running around, yeah, I know that's an exaggeration, but you want to be aiming at head level. So we'll go through this pretty quickly, but also this applies around corners, especially if you're at head level around corners, then you're going to be able to really quickly flick onto somebody or a target, whatever it may be, and then hit these shots. Whereas if you're looking down, let's say you go around, you're editing and you're looking down, and then you come around the corner and you have to go all the way up here, you're most likely going to lose that fight. So I just want to say the biggest mistake I feel like people make with crosshair placement is after they build and then they edit, they remain wherever they edited to. So let's say you edit down like this, you keep running like this. What you want to do is after you hit an edit, reset your aim back to head level. So you see what I'm doing here? I edit, I'm looking down, but I reset as I'm going around. So I go back to aiming at head level. You should try to almost always have your aim at head level, and that's what's really, really gonna help you. However, there is an exception to this. Whenever you're running up a ramp, you don't wanna have your aim like here, which would be head level if somebody was like right here on you. What you wanna do is you wanna be aiming at the edge of the ramp. It's pretty self-explanatory, and like, let's say right here, you wanna be aiming right over the edge of an object. That's very, very simple, you would think, but I've seen so many people mess this up. So next, we're going to start with the right hand shoulder peek. Now, I love these. I've talked about them a lot because they're absolutely meta, and the one thing I always fall back on in shambles situations. Let's say you're low health at the start of a match. You go on a right shoulder peek, and they're beautiful because you can pop off a shot really quickly, and somebody can't really see you. Remember, if you go from the left-hand side, you have to completely expose your whole body before you can get that shot off, and even then you might still hit the door right here. So right hand shoulder peek, absolutely essential to doing well in Fortnite, and you need to get it down. To summarize hip firing is more so a movement shot. So if you're moving and you're planning on doing some sort of movement, you should hip fire. But if you're stationary, you should be ADSing because you're going to be more accurate with that. And if you're stationary, you're not moving anyways. Hip firing is more so the, you know, the after edit, the jump shot, something like that. That's what the hip fire is for. Okay, so now we're going to talk about tracking, which tracking is one of those things that, you know, I've seen a lot of tips. I would just worry about sensitivity. When it comes to tracking, you should really just focus on your sensitivity. Make sure you have one you're comfortable with, because if you can't do this smoothly, you don't have a good sensitivity for tracking, and then it ultimately comes down to just practicing for your tracking. Just practicing your aim, especially if you're on, I mean, I know controller has aim assist, but mouse and keyboard, just, it's all in the practice, and I know aim assist might be slightly OP sometimes. Next up, we have a concept that I see a lot of players actually get wrong, and they mistake this as L2 spamming. So let's say that I'm tracking this guy, I shoot him a decent amount, and then a new guy's gonna spawn. Instead of dragging my aim all the way over to this guy, the best thing you can do is to eliminate a player or shoot at one player and then go to Hipfire and then ADS in on your next target. It's a lot quicker to do this where your ADS here, you pick up your aim and you move over here, than it is to drag all the way over here, because you have a slower ADS than you have your Hipfire sensitivity. So just keep that in mind. It's a very simple tip, but it actually does help, and it's going to improve your ability to shoot multiple people instead of just focusing on one target at a time. Another situation we need to talk about is tap fire versus full auto. I know this might seem extremely basic, so let me just wrap it up really quickly. Tap firing is ideally what you should always do from range. I see so many people complain about bloom when they're shooting from like 150 meters away, and they're like going like this, surprised that the shots aren't hitting. It's like there's bloom in this game, so you want to tap fire as much as possible unless somebody's like one shot. So let's say this guy's just running along and I'm not sure how strong or weak he is. I'm going to try to tap fire 2 shots. Usually you can get in 2 tap fire shots before somebody starts building. So you want to try to get in 2 tap fire, but after that second shot where you get the first shot accuracy, so watch, that's when I start spraying. So I usually go tap, tap, and then spray. So that's just my little tip that worked for you guys. But what you really can do too is you tap and then spray, because the second shot's going to be first shot. Now I want to talk about a topic that I'm actually extremely excited about, because you might notice that my inventory's a little weird right now. And this is it's going to be different for controller players than it is for mouse and key. But the key here is gun switch tracking. Now, this is something that's very big in Fortnite. Essentially, it's being able to shoot your shotgun, and then while you do that, you switch to another gun and you start tracking with your SMG, which is really nice with linear aim assist especially. So whenever you're coming over here, the reason I have my SMG in the left slot from my shotgun where I usually have my AR is because now I can shoot a shotgun shot with right trigger, and then I can hit LB with my left finger while still having my index finger on the trigger. So watch this. I'm going to press down on right trigger to shoot with the shotgun, switch to my SMG, and keep my finger on the trigger and start spraying with my SMG. So that's a very big tip that I just figured out recently, and it's been working like a charm. So then when you're coming over here, what this tracking really is essentially you want to practice doing this, where you're following the target, you're following a person, and you can switch seamlessly. So just watch right here real quick. We're just going to go like this, and then you switch to another gun. So that's gun switch tracking. If you do all of these things and you start combining them together, it's going to make you a lot better at aiming in Fortnite just overall. I also get a lot of questions about when should you crouch shoot, because some people, try to crouch shoot and then you do it out in the open and you get absolutely lasered by somebody, which you definitely don't want to happen. So my idea of crouch shooting is you should crouch shoot anytime you need to peek off one quick shot. Like, let's say there's a guy at that little grass thing right there, and he's fighting another person and he's just completely exposed to you. He blocked off the other person, but he didn't block off you. You're running along and you need to get a quick shot off. So if you try to do it standing up, you gotta wait for that first shot accuracy. It takes a lot longer standing up than if you crouch and you get down. It goes quicker to first shot accuracy. You can get off that shot a lot faster whenever you crouch right there. So that's why people crouch like that. What I would recommend is if you're worried about somebody on your right or maybe on your left, you're just running towards the target, you real quick just box off the right, and then you get your crouch shot in. So hopefully you hit a high damage shot. That's essentially the crouch shot is just for those real safe shots. And whenever you're like, peeking over a ramp or something, you always want to be crouched, and then you can crouch peek. I know some of these things might seem like basics to you, but these are the aim fundamentals that a lot of people mess up, and they make mistakes with a lot of these things. Not switching to their weapons and continuing to track, not crouching at the right opportunities. And it's just these type of mistakes that separate the bots from people who are recognized as pretty good players in Fortnite. I always get asked about that. And these are the things, if you master all of these, if you watch this video and you're like, Rodey, we know all that stuff, like this is way too basic, then congratulations, you are not a bot in Fortnite. If you do all this stuff, you're gonna have decent movement and good aim, and you're gonna be absolutely rolling along. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Check me out on Twitch if you want to see live streams, or if you have any questions about aim or settings or just anything like that, and I will see you all in the next video.